Yes, we did. We got our degrees from Paris University.
Right.
And we went into the world and got hated by everyone.
Welcome to our podcast, War and Freedom Inside Talks with Giselle and Walid.
You saw the encampments on campuses. I know you've been on so many shows talking about it, but what is the biggest thing that you want to say about this?
I think there's so much to discuss about what we're seeing. And I think what's so difficult to kind of wrap your head around is that to the entire world, they see what's in front of them. And for us, we see what's behind it. And trying to bring what's behind it to the front is a mammoth task. There's so much pushback, there's so much hate. You know, you're dealing with a situation where these students are ostensibly, on its face, they are really frustrated with the images that they're seeing, as anyone would be, the horrors that are coming out of Gaza. They want to go out there, they want to protest, that's our right. There's just so much more to it. There's so much more behind it that's not available to the naked eye. And I think what we know very well, trying to explain that there's a difference between people that are protesting because of what they're seeing and a hidden kind of insidious movement that's intended to do something completely different here, that's very difficult to explain without getting a lot of pushback, a lot of resistance.
Does it remind you of the student movements back 1979, what was going on in Iran, how our students came to the street and were manipulated, the same way they're manipulated right now? Leftist media, here's your enemy, this is what you hate. They don't know why they hate it, they don't have enough information about it. Does it scare you to see this is our new home, right? The new generation of students right here. This is our future here. And we see exactly the same thing that was going on in Iran 45 years ago. We see it kind of here.
Yeah, when you listen to some of the things that these students have to say when they get on the mic, right? It's very anti-America. It's very anti-colonization. It's very, we have to destroy these buildings because they're colonized buildings, and we need to liberate these buildings, and we need to liberate these encampments. One thing that I think is so important for people to understand about any country, any strong country, is that you cannot destroy it from the outside. Any country that you take over, you first have to destroy from within. And we saw that in 1979. Mm-hmm. We saw the plans, we saw the propaganda, we saw the schemes, we saw the involvement from the Brits, the French, the Americans. And then the final dagger, after everyone had taken part in this movement to corrupt it from within, was the foreign interference coming in. Mm-hmm. We know there's no way that you can get to America from the outside. It's protected from every angle, militarily, every pocket of the earth. They'll build an iron dome if they have to. You can't destroy America from the outside, but you can poison the minds of young people from the inside to hate America, to hate themselves, to be so guilty that they will override their survival instinct, to literally celebrate destruction of lands that they live in. You can do that. And we are seeing the early seeds of that happening, just like we saw in 1979 in Iran.
I feel when people see it on social media or actually in the cities, in the campuses, they're shocked, right? They're when did this happen? Why did this all of a sudden happen? And we're we've been telling you the Islamic regime has infiltrated your schools or colleges. We've been telling you what they're teaching in political science. We've been telling you all of the bullshit that our media is teaching, all of the stuff that we're putting into our elite minds, right? Mm-hmm. For decades. This didn't happen yesterday. This didn't happen on October 7th. This has been going on for so long, and you didn't pay attention. And now you wonder why these people look like puppets of foreign regimes. Well, because they have been puppets of foreign regimes for this entire time, right? When did this start? When the whole
Well, ladies, you have a point, both of you. This is not genuine from the inside. This is organized, this is funded. But I distinguish between two groups in the classroom because the battle was in the classroom. Once they are on campus, it's a different story. It's already war. I've seen it in the 90s. I came here and became a professor, and I saw the genesis of it. First, you control the teaching program, the professors. You fund the professors. And second, obviously, the professors will brainwash the students. There are 3 generations of American students who have been brainwashed. I would say, we use indoctrinated in our platform. So I was not surprised that this intifada on campus, at the end of the day, was organized for 2 decades. And now we are meeting them. But my point here is the American public is shocked.
Do you know what? I wish they were as shocked as you say they are. Many of them are not even shocked.
Well,
they're like, what are you talking about? This is great. This is the civil rights movement. What? What? Did you see the civil rights movement? Because this not that. This is sorry, but yeah, go on.
No, actually, that is the analysis I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Because you are on social media waging warfare, you and Giselle. So you are the frontliner.
Right.
Because everything is like online at this point in time, and then you translate. So what is your experience with society? Because I heard from you're talking about the progressive, quote unquote, side. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is civil rights, etc. But the other people, not the right wing, just people in the middle, basically, they are concerned that this is something they have not expected. It's like you wake up one day and see a beast evolving. What's your story with them?
An overwhelming amount of people don't think that anything's wrong and that everything's fine. And it's very strange because it's right in front of you and it's so obvious to us. But for some reason, it's just like, it's almost just like there's a sheet or something in front of them where they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, why don't you see? There's a theory, like I put out this theory, like the more obvious that it gets, the harder it is to see. Mm. And somebody explained it, like they did a whole analysis of like the tribal brain and that, I don't know. But to answer this thing about the way that the progressives see it, they do so many false analogies, right? So they talk about the civil rights movement, for example, where you talk about a grassroots, on the ground, organized efforts of people who had this experience themselves. It was led by the people that were fighting for their rights. They understood their history. They understood what they were doing. They understood the ins and outs of it. And it was their government that they were protesting. It was here in America that they were fighting for change. And these were the most educated academics that were leading this, right? Mm-hmm. They were leading with education about their own lives and their own stories and this system that was like hundreds of years ongoing, right?
Right.
You're talking about now a movement where people have woken up to the Middle East 4 minutes ago, don't understand anything, are being corrupted by extremely dangerous foreign interference, being pushed to this extreme degree of self-hatred and guilt from the indoctrination and the brainwashing, that they've now kind of glamorized this experience of suffering. They want to recreate these encampments and these tents that look exactly like Rafah. They want to be they want to be oppressed by the administration that won't give them basic humanitarian aid, you know?
Planet on their own.
That's right.
Even that term, humanitarian aid, it's like an official term. It's like a UN term that describes people that are living in a dire kind of warfare situation. They're appropriating these terms to be oppressed because they're glamorizing this oppression. So we're seeing something which is like a role play of America's most elite children, right? I don't want to call them children, that's patronizing, students, compared to like the civil rights movement, which was an on-the-ground, grassroots, authentic, educated like movement of people protesting their own government for their own experiences.
The civil rights movement was their own people for themselves. You can stand up for other people that you don't know. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
What we're saying is when you're standing up for a cause that's not your own, you have to make yourself familiar with it. You have to do the work.
But not just that, it has to be led by the people.
It has to be, first of all, led by those people. That's very, very important because we're going to talk about who's actually leading that. But also, even if you like genuinely just care about another cause, on October 7th, we took a course, like we were going into history Middle Eastern history, what was going on in Gaza, we went like far back into the Stone Ages
Canaanites,
to know,
remember the Canaanites?
exactly,
yes.
Friends
to
with it.
understand what is going on before we open our mouth,
Yeah.
before we take a side.
With academics, with
Yeah.
Middle East experts, with professionals, with people with lived experience.
Exactly.
Not with Instagram infographics and
Yes,
memes.
yes.
Fact checking, even the experts that we talk to, even Dr. Faris, fact checking everything
Listening to
afterwards,
people who live
then
there.
listening to both sides.
Right.
And after that, we made ourselves like,
But even
Talk,
after
right?
that, being very careful
yes,
about making sure that your content and your expressions are very nuanced, because you understand this is a very complicated, delicate kind of
Exactly.
situation.
Exactly,
Right? You
yeah.
don't go out there and kind of like, intifada this and that. Like, it's just, maybe I should calm down.
I build on what you said, and what concerns me as international relations. Why are these, I don't want to call them kids, why are these intifadists not talking about any other suffering, quote unquote, than the so-called suffering that they are talking about, which there is? What happened? I mean, your families are from Iran. What
Right.
happened?
Yeah.
Why they don't
Yeah.
talk about the women of Iran? They don't talk about the minorities, ethnic
Yeah,
minorities.
I can tell you why.
Giselle did a great post on why we never heard from them on Darfur. Darfur was a genocide.
I say that.
It is. They're still
It's the
continuing.
biggest genocide
Yeah.
happening in the world right now.
Yeah.
And I have a single thing to say. I can answer your question.
Yeah. go
It's
ahead.
not a question, it's a conversation, but I can answer it anyway. They have been taught, as you said, indoctrinated to believe that there's only one evil in the world, and that's white supremacy.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as any other evils. If brown people kill brown people, it's not a crime, right? Because they're not white, they can't commit evil. They're just, unsophisticated, stupid savages that don't know better, right? That's what we all three are. I just don't know if you know that.
No.
Did you know?
I don't know if I'm brown
good to
or not
know,
brown.
though.
We're savages.
Oh, savages.
We're the savages.
We're the savages.
Or the agents of the savages.
The agents of the savages.
Yeah.
And the white world is the civilized world.
So why are they not sensitized to the real genocide and massacres?
Because
and-
it's not white supremacy. That's the only thing that they see everything out of the lens of white supremacy, which is the biggest sin and the biggest evil of all time. And it's actually racist to condemn the Islamic Republic, anything that's happened in anywhere else, from Syria to Afghanistan to Sudan to anywhere, right?
So it doesn't matter how evil they are, how much we show them, like what they've done to our people, what they've done to my dad, what they've done to our families.
It's racist.
As long as they don't look evil to them in their books, and I don't know how the Ayatollahs don't look evil in their books, it's not a crime. They can't.
Yeah. So one of the central components of leftist ideology is this oppressed and oppressor binary. You're either the oppressed, which is all persons of color, and then other groups in there as well, or you're the oppressor. So to us, it seems obvious, like, okay, that's fine, the Islamic Republic's the oppressor. Good, I'm glad we understand. No, the Islamic Republic is oppressed by Western imperialism.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
They're suffering so much
They're
right now.
suffering
Yeah.
so much because of all of this Western imperialism. You ask one person, by the way, can you give me an example of Western imperialism in Iran in the past 45 years? Well, they would do it if they could. Yeah, they can't because the Islamic Republic is an axis of resistance, so they just don't even
axis of
try.
resistance. I love
Yeah,
it. Yeah, that
yeah.
goes to Hezbollah, Assad,
Yeah.
the Houthis, and everybody else.
I hate when they say resistance, because resistance actually means something to us. Like resisting the oppression, resisting the terror,
bastardize the
resisting
word.
the freedom fighter means something to us. Revolution fucking means something to us, right?
They switched all of the things the
No,
other
yeah.
way
A
around.
complete narrative.
We're
That's the
upside
same
down.
thing that the Islamic regime does to us. They turn us into criminals, they turn us into terrorists, they turn us into spies
Yes.
while they're doing all of
Yes.
that. So these people on campuses are doing exactly to
Yes.
us what
Yeah.
our terrorizers are doing to us,
Yeah.
and they think they're helping.
Yeah, that technique is called DARVO, right?
Yeah.
DARVO, deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. And that person who doxed me, right, is exactly the tactic that they used, right? They came out and they said, I've been attacked and da-da-da-da. Like, it's a very, like, kind of like mastermind sociopathic kind of
Yes,
technique.
it's psychological.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. let me raise one thing since we're discussing this. I am following up on the relationship between the Islamists and the far left. This whole thing
Marriage
is
of convenience.
convenience. But I discovered one thing. The left wing think that they have co-opted the Islamists and they're going to make them into progressive. So they are hosting them and bringing them. And the Islamists are looking at them, the jihadists. No. We co-opted you. We're going to set up the caliphate. And that's what's happening. You saw the conversions, the jihadi conversions that are on campus now by the hundreds.
We saw the pictures.
Yeah, so that means that the jihadists are actually using the left wing, who are completely out of their mind. And these are not even real left wing. These are now the mercenaries of the jihadists with a Trotskyite, we say, narrative. So what's happening now is a movement that is funded by the Islamic Republic and also by the Muslim Brotherhood to grab this so-called liberal, progressive, left wing, etc., and use it. And I can tell you one thing: for the first 3 months, the traditional left wing in America, including in the Democratic Party, they thought this was really a social thing. But then they realized after they saw these encampment, the jihadi encampment, Soviet jihadi encampment, they are afraid. They don't know what has been unleashed here.
Well, it's interesting that it kind of brings up this horseshoe theory, right? When you go so far left, you become right, or you go so far right, you become left. And so what's interesting when you think of the term fascism, which is supposed to be extreme right-wing ideology, right? The left, so when you think of what characterizes fascism, it's ultranationalism, okay, river to the sea. It's authoritarian leadership, okay, terrorist, militia, jihadists, whatever, and total suppression of any opposing viewpoints, right?
Totalitarianism.
This is exactly what the left wing have become, right? You are not allowed to disagree with them. If you go onto the campuses and you try to counter-protest, they're forming the human chains around you, like Zionists must go, and like pushing them out, not willing to listen, not willing to engage in open dialogue, not willing to even understand that maybe there's another side of this story. And this is exactly the behavior that is exhibited in cults, right? Because what cults do,
exactly,
they know that the members of the cult have to be protected from outside influence.
Exactly.
Because if they start talking to outside people, they might be like,
they will lose them.
They will
they will see the facts and lose them.
So these elders that are kind of organizing and controlling the encampments, right? And again, look,
Commissars.
This isn't like, I'm very well aware that there's many people that this doesn't apply to, whoever it applies to. It's a very intentional effort to keep them from interacting and engaging with the outside world that can correct some of the assumptions that they have. Because once you start engaging and you're having dialogue and you're becoming educated, you're like, maybe this whole globalize the intifada thing isn't the peace-loving thing that I thought that it was. Maybe suicide fests aren't gonna be the solution here,
I think even if you can get through them or to them, there is already something else planned ahead. Like, people have to understand this is not spontaneous demonstrations erupting. It wasn't spontaneous demonstrations in the beginning. It's not spontaneous encampments. People have instructions. Some of them instructions have leaked, but even if they don't leak, you can see the same behavior in every single campus. We did Women Life Freedom for a year. Yeah. Every demonstration was completely different. We couldn't even get people to come out on the same day for the same cause and not like fight about like what flag to bring and and why I don't go to this place and that place. So this is normal nature. This is something like, people doing it. When you see this going on systematically, same flag, same message, same,
same cafe.
Just
have now a
same cafe, same,
unbelievable.
Same slogans, same like everything, and at the same time, you can see there's somebody orchestrating this, from campuses, and they don't see it. So by the time, and we've seen this, Jewish students, Iranian students are going up to them, starting to talk to them, engage with them, like bonding with them and breaking up this bullshit, right? They will already build something else out. They will go on to the next step and the next step and the next step. And that should be,
blew them off campus.
People should be scared from that. Like, who is orchestrating this? Who is directing our students to do what?
This is typically the Bolsheviks and the Ikhwan. It's a marriage between the Bolsheviks, the early wave of the communists in Russia, and the Ikhwan, the Brotherhood. If you put them together, And how would I know it? I go to social media, their social media, including in the Arabic language. And you can hear whatever you want, that this is, in fact, a strategy to change the balance of power with the United States, what you just told us now, that this is taking it from the inside. The safest place for them is inside the belly of the dragon. And I think that America is the dragon, and they're sitting on the inside. They have our laws, and they think they can protect.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I'm glad you brought up those protests, because you reminded me of something as well. But the media also has a huge role to play in this, because the media keeps advertising this as like, this is a suppression of free speech. That's not what that is. Like, when we did the Women Life Freedom protests, we had protests that were like hundreds and thousands of people at certain point, right? There were also times I personally showed up to protests and we had to leave because we didn't have a permit. It was, I didn't call the media and say my free speech has been suppressed. I understood, we all understood, okay, well, we don't have a permit, it's not authorized, we have to leave. There's such thing as civil disobedience, which is that that the activity is not permitted, like when you're blocking roadways, for example, and blocking entrances. Obviously, there's reasons why you have to get permits for that. They need to reroute emergency vehicles. Like there's that stuff is all. If you want to protest that, if you still want to sit in and do all of those things and block the access, it's considered unlawful. It's considered civil disobedience, which is actually often encouraged. Civil disobedience is encouraged, but people understand that there's a consequence. They understand that you'll be arrested, right? Why does the media frame this as suppression of free speech when it's not? It's like, how do you not know that?
Well, I can throw one point. The newsmakers, we all are on the news, the three of us now, right? So we know how it works. Who's on the news desk? Graduates from these classrooms. That's what it is. Everything starts in the classroom. It ends up in the newsroom. It ends up also in the war room. We see many analysts on defense going in different direction. Courtroom, the courtrooms and laws. Art room, that's Hollywood, that's here. So the classroom has been the failure, the complete systematic failure or systemic failure actually in America.
What happened to you, like when you were teaching at these universities and they started seeing that you're educating these students, that you're giving them the information that they need?
My classrooms graduated free-minded. And I can still see some of them who actually we saw the other day, people in Congress, because we were doing a tour in Congress. They said, hey, Dr. Ferris, remember 20 years ago? They made it because they were not corrupted in terms of, more important than political science is history. Once you erase the history of the Middle East of certain countries, like what was Persia and Iran and Lebanon and Phoenicia, you are the victim of the Arabists or the victim of the jihadists. Then they impact your brain and you travel with that information everywhere you go work.
That's exactly what,
Bureaucracy is corrupted, academia is re-corrupting itself. For example, those who...
But I want to hear your story of what happened to you.
My stories were terrifying. I was alone. There were very few Walid Ferris like me in the classrooms. Of course, I came from the region and I was not corrupted in the region. And I started to do my job. Then I started to realize that there is an association in America, which is the union of all professors of Middle Eastern Studies. I'm going to name it right now. Middle East Association of North America, MESA. MESA has 2,400 instructors of Middle Eastern Studies. MESA was receiving millions of dollars, I don't want to quantify how much, from petrodollar regimes. And of course, when the Iran deal was signed and they got the billions of dollars, they reinvested. You know how many are teaching here who are pro-regime, pro-Islamic regime. And they jump from the classroom, right, to the newsroom. When I said the defense room or the war room, now what case are we dealing with? These 2-3 appointees inside the DOD and elsewhere. What's her name? Madame Tabatabai?
Oh, yeah.
Madame, I don't know.
Adriana. So that there is a whole system that went inside our national security system that starts from education. Education to me is the beginning of the national security information.
But what happened to you? We're still not there.
No, but I want to talk about that as well.
First of all, they blocked all my publications, academic publication. Then they cut me off from universities. I used to be, even Berkeley, imagine, I used to lecture there, and NYU and everywhere else. But once that organization and the pro-Islamist jihadists, academics.
This is the fascism. This is the fascism. The suppression of your views as a lived experience.
It was systematic. It was systematic. Then publishing houses will refuse my manuscripts, and they were the best manuscripts. It started about after 9/11, all the way till when the Arab Spring started. And at this point in time, I found myself completely cut off. They got crazy when I was appointed twice as an advisor to a presidential candidate. You know why? Because I'm going to take that knowledge and put it in the administration. Wage unbelievable campaign. Mother Jones is the most far left, far Islamist publication.
Like Code Pink?
Yes, that's the companion of Code Pink.
Okay.
They blasted me, off.
Oh, she does me as well.
She does you.
Carla Walsh girl.
Okay,
yeah.
So I have been systematically officially persecuted, trying to get me all from my jobs, the teaching jobs, etc., because I was teaching against what they were promoting.
Yeah.
And worse, I was also not just teaching, I was informing the public of what is going on in that situation.
And this is why that's why we call it neo-colonialism and neo-imperialism,
yes.
Because you suppress the voices of the Middle East, of the Levant, right? And you replace them with your Western ideology about the Middle East. You're actually colonizing the narrative.
Colonizing narrative.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I read actually some of your posts in that direction, but it's almost a circle, right? Cycle. So those regimes fund here the academics. The academics basically create that narrative, but they create that narrative to serve the regimes in the region. That's where we are.
And I think this kind of goes back to these discussions that we always have, which is America's appeasement of this regime and everything that comes with it, and that's part of the leftist, like what I call inclusive terrorism, right? Because everything's inclusive, but there's no there's no limit to the amount of inclusion that you can have, right? So then you could become so inclusive that you become inclusive terrorism,
you
right?
include the jihadis with
you include everyone has to be included. Jihadists, terrorists, murderers, rapists, everyone.
Kabuli salad with jihadis.
Yeah. So that what is it called? That groupthink of this whole inclusive terrorism that has been going on for several years. It's like, okay, yes, this professor has been reported by the FBI to have links directly to the regime, but I mean, is it really that serious?
I like
Professor,
really?
what professor? We have people in the
him.
Pentagon with direct links to the regime.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Well, why did they get security clearance?
And if they ask too many questions, we have October 7th.
Yeah.
Everything goes away.
Yeah.
When you massacre a big group of people. That's their last thing. That's why I knew on October 7th we were onto something. We had the revolution going on. We had just Semaphore and Iran International publish the Iran Expert Initiative, which is Robert Malley, Tabatabai, all of these people, which are just the tip of the iceberg, right? These are just the people who were dumb enough to get caught. They had all of the conversation in their emails and stuff, right? So this is coming out. Congress is asking questions. They're going in. What is going on? We're infiltrated. And the whole Iranian diaspora is duh, we've been telling you for so long. We're sitting there happy. Now something's going to happen. They're starting investigations, letters, What happens October 7th?
Yeah, but don't even forget before you got there, when the news article came out, what did all the leftists do? This is racism.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I forgot.
This is racism against
Not
Iranian
just the leftists,
people.
The State Department
The
said
State
that.
Department, everyone. Everything's racism, right? You can't call a terrorist because that's racism.
One word in their brain. And they keep using it.
Yeah.
But did you
They've
also
destroyed
know
that word.
Absolutely.
They've destroyed that word.
Was
And you know what? I saw this tweet once and it was such a good tweet. I wish I could remember what it was. But it was something about how the whole leftist movement is picking up every single cause, making it so unbelievably extreme that nobody follows along with you anymore, destroying it and then dropping it and moving on to the next thing, right? After the whole BLM thing, where, people then came in and just went so extreme and did all of this stuff, I remember because I was working as a criminal defense attorney in court, and a lot of what I would have to rely on for my arguments is systemic racism, right? The years like following BLM, I just remember every single time I wanted to say something, it was like it was stuck in my throat, because I knew as soon as I bring up any form of racism, the judge is going to roll his eyes and be like, because if
It's
the
like
card
chewed
got
up, it's
played
like, yeah.
out and it's you actually harm the people, because it what like I would be talking about cases from many years ago that really were
racism,
and I couldn't
and you
even
can't
fight that anymore. I had to think of like, okay, what's a different word except for targeted because of race?
Yes.
Class, maybe they were poor, you know, like just anything to not say racism, because they milked it and destroyed it and ruined it. And I would always think to myself, God, you just fucked this up so bad, you know?
The
and
abuse of words, the abuse of subjects, like
everything that they're doing now, I'm like, you are destroying the Palestinian movement completely, destroying it to its utter core, and then you're going to throw it away.
Yes.
And
you're going to move on,
victim.
and they're going to be stuck there.
Yeah.
Yes. You're saying leftist the whole time. Like, where are you?
I've been left my whole life. I'm like a
But it's the
defector.
left,
You were left alone by the left.
You were left by the left. We were all left by the left.
And we can talk about that, because I think for a while I was cracking. I was cracking because I started to sense that I couldn't go against the left. I think for everyone it kind of started around the COVID time, where we all kind of had questions about the vaccine.
Yeah.
But if you ask any questions, you're a murderer. You're always a murderer.
Yes, you were.
Yeah. Now you're a baby killer, a genocide supporter.
Yeah.
Then you were a murderer and all of these things. And it's like, but I just have questions.
Yeah.
Is this not an intellectual society anymore?
Yeah.
Do we not get to, you know, what happened to the marketplace of ideas?
Yes.
Like,
Critical thinking.
what happened to critical thinking? You know, anytime I would post stuff to just be like, let's explore this, people be like, you murderer, you this. But I'm not a scientist, I have questions. Why can't I ask? And then so I think for me, I slowly started to just be like, okay, there's something wrong with this movement, this side of things. I mean, there's something wrong with every side, but and then I started to feel this, and I remember one time I had dinner with someone, and this was before, no, this was around Iran maybe, but I got really upset, and I was like, I don't think that I'm a liberal anymore. Like, I don't know what I am anymore. And I think the tipping point for me, when I realized the whole thing was just like a grift, was Senator Chris Murphy.
I remember that.
Senator Chris Murphy was you remember my obsession. You remember my obsession. I was
every tweet,
every video, every tweet, calling him every day. Hello, Senator Chris Murphy, it's me again.
Murphy phobia.
But you have to imagine, like, Congress was not in session. What is this guy doing there? He was out there.
He was coming with his propaganda videos. Some people say that
God.
Biden's decision was not good. It was an excellent decision, and everyone agrees with me. You know, when I watched the Iranians in his tweets, hundreds, thousands of comments every single day, we are Iranian and we hate you, right? And every time he would come out with a new tweet, it's only white, right-wing, white nationalists that just warmongering, blah, 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 that disagree with me. And it's like, you liar! And then that was like the first crack of not the first crack, it was the last crack of the whole humanitarian left, that's empathy and No, you're a liar.
Yeah.
Because this entire Iranian community told you you're wrong, and you lied, you misrepresented, you pushed your own agenda. This was never about us. You're a fucking liar.
It was never about humanitarian anything. I mean, they said all the hostages will be back. Like, hello.
Hi, where's my dad?
My dad too. When it's like that deep, when they lie and it personally affects you, that's where you crack. That's where you're like, okay, this is not a good cause anymore.
You know, because like every time I'd seen it happen, it was always from the outside. When it was like for BLM or some LGBTQ or blah, 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 anti-Asian hate, I was always on the outside thinking, I don't know if you guys are that honest, but what do I know, right? And then when it was me, I was like, my instinct was right.
So what was the event that pushed you from one side to the other?
That was it. That was
the
it. It was Chris Murphy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he ruined my life.
Oh my
He ruined like the entire Iranian community's trust in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones that were already democratic.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But he was so obvious pro-Iran deal. You start with the statements even years before,
yeah.
pro-Obama administration, Iran deal. But he was so obvious, I said, why would people even believe him?
I remember seeing this. All the white liberal leftists with all the flags and ally in their bio, retweeting. Senator Chris Murphy is right. It's only right-wing warmongers that disagree with this deal. This is Iran's money.
I hated Iran's money.
Yeah, well, I blasted it big time from beginning, 2014. I told them, this is Iranians' money.
Yeah,
Iranian,
not
that's
the
what we were
regime.
saying.
Not their
Exactly.
oppressors' money.
Yeah.
Our money. My money.
Getting to them. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's not getting to them.
Yeah.
It's going in their pockets. Billionaire mullahs.
Of course,
Yeah.
and worse, that money that goes to the regime, now we know it. They slice back. It's like brokerage, brokered. A broker will bring back 10%.
Kickbacks.
Yes, and reinvest it here in America. So that money basically is what has been.
You think, are they so stupid? Do they not see if we give these regimes money, they will use it for terror? Of course they see that. Like, they're not blind. They went to college,
but
they can think, but they are benefiting from it right now.
Of course.
So
They
once
make
you
the money.
understand that they're not stupid, you stop asking these stupid
Yeah.
questions. Trying to educate
Yes,
them and stuff.
yes.
That's why we wasted like so much time trying to educate them and saying,
Thinking they were stupid.
Yeah, you're making a mistake. The Iran deal is a mistake. JCPOA is a mistake. This and that is a mistake. Buying hostages out is a mistake. Like, how many mistakes do they have to make until we finally wake up and see it's not a fucking mistake?
Yeah.
They're getting something out of it. What is it? Who is it? How much is it? And those are the questions that we are asking now, and that's the difference that I see now from before.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what we were saying about this whole culture of inclusive terrorism that has been building up for so many years, right? This whole are you turning a blind eye to it, or are you allowing it, or are you doing it? Whichever one of those three things it is.
Yeah.
Something that's been building so far that it's now at the point where it's, I want to say, semi beyond our control,
Yeah.
And we're still in that phase that people don't think it's bad enough to speak out about it.
And it's old, Elica. I detected it in 2009 when President Obama then, sent a letter to Khamenei and told him we're going to coordinate together. From my own sources, I was getting the information from the Middle East that a deal will be done. It took 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But Obama, I have some suspicion that the groups that supported him during the campaign were already pushing him to do a deal with the Iran regime, Islamic Republic, and that money will come to circles in America who will build the Iran deal. So it's all about, as you said on the media, money. At the end of the day, it's a transaction.
And you can, some of you guys see it early on, like my dad was telling me that too. But the problem is that they infiltrate the group of people that are usually on our side.
Yeah.
Like the left is usually on our side.
Yeah,
They're
of
pro-immigrants and like healthcare and women rights, right?
Humanitarian.
Human
So
rights.
in your own little bubble, like living here, Obama was benefiting you, right? Like healthcare, like the Dream Act for all of the immigrants, and like you're like, and he talks so well. Like, how can you hate him, like, right? Like, finally somebody who's so eloquent.
They
and
were
stuff.
lucky on the other side.
Meanwhile, like the biggest freaking trader deal is going on with our oppressors, with
Yes.
terrorists, and we don't see it.
Yeah.
We're like, how that cannot be.
Yeah.
You know?
And it happened with the Brotherhood. Remember, that
Yes.
same month he traveled to Cairo, addressed the Brotherhood, and this Afghanistan deal is the daughter or the son of the original agreement. So there is a big transaction that has controlled actually the political machine of the West. Europe fell way, long time ago.
Yeah,
Europeans are still trading, but America, come on.
And it's the extent that Obama went to make the JCPOA and this kind of build these diplomatic relations with the regime that he went to make that happen. Like these programs that were documenting human rights abuses in Iran.
Oh,
Why would
yes.
you do that?
Oh.
Why would you do that? Right? Like there's so many things to it that was like, an agenda
Total agenda.
And it's like, why? Why? If you just want to get into the JCPOA, if this is just about a nuclear deal to you, why are you blinding the world to what's going on when at that time, right, it was the Green Movement. It was protests that looked just like this. There was an uprising. There was about to be a revolution. The regime was on its last knees, right, on its last legs. You gave them $150 billion.
That's it. That's where everything starts. And I believe that this was longer before even Obama. In 2006, there were elections, and the Obama team, he was a senator, remember? He and Kerry and the rest, they had a majority in 2006 in Congress, and they, at that time, started to engage the regime. So the talks with the regime even preceded Obama's tenure. But one of the early signs to me was the previous administration, the Bush administration, had earmarked $50 million annual to the Iran opposition. Though it was not efficient, but $50 million canceled on month one.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I can. You know, something that was in one of these books, I can't remember which one, they were talking about how during the Green Revolution, before Obama made his decision, they actually had CIA agents on the ground in Iran, and they were going back and forth about whether they wanted to arm the protesters to potentially take out the regime. Now, we know that American Western involvement in these kind of regime changes has always been a very controversial topic, but the reason that I bring this up is because anyone with a bit of sense understands that if America wanted this regime gone, they would have been gone yesterday.
Of course.
They would have been gone yesterday, even in either in an obvious way or in a like, we don't know how this happened kind of way, right? It would have been done. The fact that the Islamic Republic is in power today is a choice that is constantly being made over and over and over and over.
The raw way to define it, and I did it in my book, is that the Islamic Republic bought the West. Bought. Dineros. That's what happened, as simple as that.
And you know, this is where it kind of ties in where I talk about this being Western imperialism, because the definition of imperialism is to extend a country's influence either through militarily or through diplomacy.
There you go.
Okay, so when you are extending your influence through diplomacy with this regime, that is Western imperialism. So all of these like, oh, I'm so against Western imperialism. Okay, so then you should be against the Islamic
Exactly. But it is so complicated to describe, you know?
You have to simplify.
That's
what you are doing.
That's what we're trying to do.
With your videos, like 5 videos.
You know what? Somebody asked me this in an interview recently. They were like, okay, so how can you like simplify this and explain it for an audience of blah blah blah? I was like, you can't.
Yeah, you can't.
And that's where we're going wrong, because
that's why
there
I'm
are
limited
people
in my ability to explain anything.
And so this is where we're going wrong, because you have these people that have like 12 million followers, 3-minute videos about the most insane, radical, wrong thing.
Slogan, that's all you need. 2 minutes of slogans.
Like 2 million views per video, completely educating the entire West with this information.
I'm learning this.
And I can't correct it with a 5-minute like, hey guys, here's the truth. No, it requires a deep dive that people are not interested in. So the mountains of information that would be required to dump on these people, to deprogram them, de-radicalize them, like unlearn all of this. I mean, I think we're talking about generations. Generations.
Who's your most famous preferred blogger or online?
You guys.
Oh, no.
No, I'm being serious. Every time, like, I was talking to my friend before I came here, and I was like, saying that I was going to do the podcast. I was like, oh, you know my friend Giselle, she's the daughter of blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh, that extremely gorgeous girl. I was like, I was like, but she's not just gorgeous, though.
Both of you are very investigative. When you want something, there's no way.
We're hungry for information because we're hungry for truth. We talked about it one time. Like, it's not just like you want to be right. You want to be on the right side. Like the best moment is when somebody proves us wrong. Because we know, like, we got like so much closer to the truth. You know, like, oh my God, what I was doing this whole time was absolute bullshit because I didn't know this fact. You know, so we're craving stuff. We're craving information. That's why we're like sitting on the phone with you, like, tell me this, tell me everything you know, and then we go to somebody else and so on. Because that's exactly, we talked about this. Like, finding the way to the truth is always going to protect you.
Yeah.
There is no like nothing that they can do to you to crack you when you are on the right side of truth, because that's the path that you choose.
And that's why I don't ever second guess myself.
Yeah.
You know, like no matter how bad the attacks and the this and the that, I know that not only do I know that I have truth, but I also know that you don't.
Yeah.
Because if there are people that I'll be like, wait, you are someone that maybe I'm going to listen to and say, okay, you have this experience, you have this familiarity, you have this, like, I love to learn everything that you have to teach me. But when someone like discovered the Middle East yesterday and their name is like Pamela and they've got a keffiyeh on their head, I'm like, God. I don't even need to like, I'm good, Pamela. Like, really, Pam, I'm great, but thanks for the feedback.
But the one thing is that you guys, you ladies, can take that raw material and make it into superior material for the people to understand. I wouldn't believe how you transform some basic raw material into art. Simply, you have to catch up with the age, with the time.
You know, I think we had this conversation once where we were talking about how we like have our foot between two generations, right?
Yeah.
So you have this generation that's all like technology and and they're very fast.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear 27 minutes. They want to hear, 3 maximum, preferably less than 1 minute.
Yes.
And then you have to come from the place of like the 200 hours of like deep, in-depth knowledge that gets to go to every twist and turn and nuance and So we, like, our brains are like,
Extracting.
yeah. And then algorithm from here and like, and then people are like, what is this? And we're like, wow.
Yes. And you're doing a phenomenal,
Yes.
like freaking
Thank
phenomenal
you.
job.
You can have